because we understand the law firm's business and we treat their active cases as our collateral, we often can provide that law firm with 3 times the amount of capital availability as compared to their traditional bank that they were working with, and investing in growth, case acquisition, technology, etc. And we're seeing those firms grow 2x, 3x, 5x in revenue over the next 2 to 3 years.
Welcome to the Lexafide Lens, where we speak to industry experts about all things legal tech and legal. I'm Terry Dohrmann, I'm the CRO at Lexafide, and today I'm joined by Ari Kornhaber. He's the co-founder and EVP at Esquire Bank. Ari, welcome.
First of all, thank you for having me. I've always enjoyed our conversations over the years about this industry and the business that you and I are in, so it's really a pleasure to be here. So thank you for having me. A little bit of background, I'm a former trial lawyer. I'm a recovering trial lawyer. I used to represent plaintiffs in personal injury, medical malpractice, and mass tort litigations. I wanted to start that way because Esquire Bank found a niche to provide banking and financial services to contingency fee law firms. And I lived the life of a contingency fee lawyer. So I know firsthand how different, how unique the financial challenges are. And it's one of the reasons Esquire Bank has been doing so well is we found an underserved, underserviced, misunderstood market that no other bank took the time to understand and provide financial solutions to. So we've done that. It's been a great run. The bank's in our 19th year of business, and we really believe in the great work that trial lawyers do. So it's great work, and we're doing really well doing it.
First off, congratulations. I read that Esquire hit Fortune 100's fastest growing companies list. It's remarkable growth and remarkable success. I've known you guys for a long time, so congratulations on that. I'd love a few bullets as to how you see them. Why is that success happening?
It comes down to a few things. Number one, we're servicing an underserviced, underserved, misunderstood market. It's a niche. The niche is contingency fee law firms. No other bank in the country took the time to understand the unique financial needs of contingency fee law firms. We've done that. We've also invested in our brand, which allows us to reach this target in a unique way with hyper-targeted, personalized digital marketing. Lastly, we provide customized, bespoke financial solutions to meet these unique needs.
I'm sure you're looking for the right types of partners to invest with as well. I'd love to understand how you assess those types of firms that are looking for growth, looking to operationalize, looking to be better.
We go to all of the industry association conferences, we meet the other vendors, we try to learn which providers are best in class, and we want to bring those solutions to our clients. There's one area in particular that has not sort of met the needs, and that's intake. So that's why I'm so thrilled that you're taking this on.
We did a bunch of research before launching Lexafide, and what are the areas that can really be optimized? And intakes consistently rose to the top because every firm needs it, every firm struggles with it in some way, and even the ones that are doing phenomenally well, they still see sort of chinks in the armor where they can be improved.
More and more firms are borrowing money to invest in growth. Part of that is for marketing and case acquisition strategies. You need to have state-of-the-art intake systems to be able to handle that new flow of business, especially because that's what the clients expect today.
Yeah, when we started Litify in 2016, our big tagline was, "Are you running your firm like a modern business?" And many were not. And I, at that time, had not seen much investment in terms of C-suite executives and things like that. So that's a monumental shift, I think, in the industry.
I would agree. It's very obvious to us when a law firm is applying for financing which firms have a professional who's solely focused on the firm's financials versus most of the firms today that still have lawyers in their office who are practicing law and also taking care of the bookkeeping, or their mom is taking care of the bookkeeping. It's a night and day experience for us.
And as we know, most lawyers chose English over math in school.
That's right. Look, these lawyers, as you recognized earlier, they're really talented trial lawyers. They can pick up a file they've never seen before and try that case same day. But when you start talking about their P&L and their balance sheet and budgets and projections, they get this glazed donut look over their eyes and say, That's not what I learned. I didn't go to business school and get an MBA. Right. I got a JD.
I'd love to hear this validation of really what our business plan is. And a big part of that is really what are the areas that could be automated in a simplistic way. I think one of the big misnomers for AI, particularly in legal, is that you're solving for these very complex, very intense things that frankly, you have lawyers. They went to law school, they understand cases, and that's what they're really good at. They're not necessarily great at going to get a fax number for, from a hospital, for example. So where we focused is really on, doing those types of simple tasks that are, call them unsexy, but they're necessary. And so our focus at Lexafide is really to make those things much easier.
I'm so glad you're saying that because there has been so much focus on the cases once the retainer agreement has been signed and the rest of the life cycle of that case, with not enough attention on that first impression that's made upon the client when they're calling, and that's the intake experience, which needs to be enhanced.
Yeah, speed, accuracy, consistent touches, things like that are very important. Ari, I was wondering if you can go a bit deeper into what you're seeing in terms of consolidation of firms and then even sort of the legacy elements and how firms are preparing for that.
So what we're seeing is a lot of senior partners are of the baby boomer age and they're starting to retire. And most of them haven't really thought about a succession plan. So a great way for that lawyer to take advantage of a brand and a business that they've built their whole life is to merge or consolidate with a younger firm. And those younger firms we see are more apt to invest in technology, be more open to financing. It's a great marriage of two business models. We're also seeing, when it comes to consolidation, that more and more law firms are creating MSOs, master service organizations, that sit on top of their law firms. Because Terry, if you think about it, the business that a law firm is involved in, 95% of it is not practicing law. The intake, the marketing, the medical record retrieval, at the end, the financial disbursements and all of that. So all of those other business items sit in the MSO, and only the legal work is remaining in the law firm. That allows the MSO to take on other law firms and bring all of the processes into this business model that brings incredible efficiencies.
Interesting that you say that, Ari. When we did research around Lexafide and where we would focus, it is on intakes and it is embracing AI, because what we found is that some of that basic blocking and tackling of intake process can be done by robots. And what I mean by that is you don't want to lose your brand, you don't want to lose that human touch when you're dealing with an injured party, for example, but there are simple things, simple parts of the process that can be automated, and that's where we really are focused.
Yeah, it's across the board. The ones that come to mind immediately are case management systems. The law firms that have not embraced the newer platforms are recognizing that they need it in order to be able to sustain the growth that they're trying to achieve. Something that they haven't focused on in the past, intake technology, which has evolved. You know that more than most. Additionally, there's now AI that could assist with medical record retrieval and review. Instead of having nurse practitioners leaf through thousands of pages of medical records in an inefficient way, AI could do that, summarize the medical treatment, summarize the diagnoses. That gives the lawyers a lot of valuable information instantly to decide whether or not they want to keep the case. If they're applying for financing, that's the collateral for the lenders. So that's a real game changer as well.
Over the last few years, we've seen an increase of in-person events, and it's great to see everybody back out there. I'm curious to get your take on what is an effective show nowadays in terms of content, speakers, the breadth of what's being covered. You speak at these shows. I'd love your take on it.
They're really important for us, and I think the lawyers get tremendous value. Besides the continuing legal education credits that they need to obtain every year, there's a lot of change going on in the industry, so that's an opportunity for providers to talk about these unique bespoke services that they provide, and a lot of it surrounds technology. We hired business development officers around the country to be at these events. The lawyers love that we're supporting the associations that they belong to, so it gives us great coverage and the ability to build relationships. Because for us, at the end of the day, banking is built on trust, And trust comes from building relationships.
Are you seeing firms struggle with, and this is my world, in terms of technology providers that are out there? Do you have any sense of, are they trying to whittle down their needs? Are they looking at this thing like they'd rather have one provider for multiple issues? Like how are they assessing in your view?
Yeah, I believe they would prefer to have one platform with different components of technology built in. Unfortunately, it's still such a fragmented industry that if you go to a big national association conference, there are multiple companies that do the same thing in the exhibit hall, and it's difficult for these lawyers who, again, aren't great at business to understand who is best in class.
Do you see them making investments in things like, enhancing their IT team, enhancing their operations teams, and like how they actually, are they taking Esquire money and doing things like that?
They are, especially the firms that have ambitions to be national law firms. And there are a number of them now and more coming, partially because of what's happened in Arizona, the ABS laws that allow non-lawyers to own a piece of a law firm. So there are firms who are coming to us for financing specifically to invest in the technology that they need to be able to scale and grow.
For argument's sake, I'm a small firm. We've had some success in my region, but I am looking to expand. What advice would you give for a young lawyer, group of lawyers, young business looking to grow?
I'd say at the beginning, you really have to focus on case acquisition. You just need to bring in as many cases as you can and do the best job you can for those clients. That will lead to more word of mouth referrals from existing and prior clients, and eventually referrals from other lawyers. Additionally, invest in your brand. More and more today, we're seeing law firms aren't Smith, Jones, and Riley. They're coming up with unique names that have brand equity in the communities where these lawyers are practicing law. And last, I would say, give back to the communities where you're practicing law. That's going to enhance your brand equity and allow your employees to feel like they're doing something really good and buy into the law firm's culture.
On culture, I'd love to get your take a bit on that, because I'm sure I've seen it in my experience. You can go into a firm and you can quickly discern that one culture is different, not necessarily better or worse, but just different in terms of the way that the employees embrace the mission of the firm itself. I'd love your take on that as well.
The law firms and lawyers who focus on culture are the most successful firms that we see. They actually care about their employees and their employees' health, and they actually care about their clients. Because of that, we find those law firms are much more responsive to their clients' needs. Today, the biggest complaint still from clients is that they're not hearing back from their lawyer in a timely manner. There is technology that they can invest in that does that for them, but more often, you need people to be able to build real relationships with your clients, your employees, and the communities where they practice law.
A lot of technologies purport to make that process easier. We being one of them, but it's a huge focus for us at Lexafide is to enable firms to really do that outreach to their clients, but do it in a way that they're not losing a human touch. Are you seeing that also? Are you seeing, there has to be a mind on that type of thing, because it needs to be, you don't want to talk to a robot when you've just been injured, is what I hear all the time, which obviously that's true. However, simple touch points and reminders, for example, to do them, or some ability to automate that, is that something that you're seeing firms embrace?
We are, because that's what the clients expect, right? If these are consumers in every other aspect of their life, they're interacting with technology, a lot of it's on their phone. They expect that their law firm is going to communicate them digitally through their phones.
We used to say at Litify that you can do more with your phone with your kids than you can with your firm. That mindset is what got many firms, many lawyers and folks to invest in the technology element of their business. And it's good to see that that's still happening.
Absolutely.
Ari, simple question, probably not a simple answer, but why do firms suffer stagnation?
6 words. We've always done it that way. A lot of these lawyers are resistant to change. Some of them are open to change, but they're afraid that their staff will rebel if change happens, because to them, it's more work. But the lawyers who are open to change are recognizing that there is so much opportunity out there to take advantage of new and emerging technology, which will create efficiencies and allow the lawyers to do what they do best, focus on getting their clients the best results.
Just going a little deeper on something you mentioned, Ari, is the data that you get back from firms you're looking to do business with and the differences between those who are really thought out and have firm financial data versus those that aren't, and then specifically around sort of case valuation and how you actually look at those cases and their value 1, 2, 3 years out. I'd love your take on how you see that and the differences between those firms.
When a law firm has C-suite executives who are focused on the financials and the operations, that is apparent the moment we get information from the law firm. Those firms are sending us case inventory information with projections in terms of values and timing, which makes our job a lot easier. We don't just rely on that. We do some due diligence on some of their largest cases. It's the old 80-20 rule. 20% of their cases will generate 80% of the revenue. So we don't need to look at every case in great detail. Other firms that have a lower volume of high value cases, those firms often send us projections because it's not hundreds of cases, it's sometimes dozens of cases. And we do a deeper dive into those cases because there's not as much diversification across the inventory.
I imagine some of the growth and success you've seen can be attributed to unique offerings or things like that you have. I'm curious what Esquire does offer in that vein.
When it comes to financing, Esquire Bank provides tailored financial solutions to the law firms that we work with. Every law firm is different. The way they acquire new cases, the way they run their business, the practice areas that they're in. So it's not a one-size-fits-all. We ask the lawyers, what are your goals? What do you need to achieve your goals? And in addition, what do you want? We listen to that and try to come up with sort of bespoke financial solutions to offer that law firm so that they could achieve those goals. Terry, I have a question for you. What are the biggest challenges that law firms are facing when it comes to intake?
What we found, Ari, is that firms are still having a difficult time creating consistency and accuracy and speed on the upfront process. And what I mean by that is, and I'll even go back to when we launched Litify. And at Litify, I always wanted to figure out a way where you could take that intake process, and we built questionnaires in sort of a simplistic way that an intake manager, an intake associate could follow this line of questioning and get the right types of answers. What I wanted to have is, intelligence actually looking at that and reacting to some of the answers and thinking about what should be the next best question to ask, or if things were missing, or if there was additional follow-up that was required to get missing information. That was one thing we never could quite solve for, and then now with the advent of AI, it's a very easy thing to have AI look at that data, understand what's missing, understand what answers could be better, and in some cases, even having an AI agent, a voice agent, reach back out to those clients to get those simple questions and answers done. So it's a much cleaner, faster way to do it, and also provides that consistent touch for clients because they often complain that they don't hear from their lawyers. And I think nowadays we're much more used to talking to, AI agents or IVR systems and things like that. So as a society, we're more comfortable and we're able to kind of do this back and forth and get the information that's needed to progress a case.
Terry, what are the major challenges that law firms are facing today when it comes to intake?
Intake has improved greatly over the past 10 years, and obviously there's many businesses that are helping on the legal tech front to do these things. Challenges still exist though, number one, in just the communication element. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of inbound calls, a lot of forms being filled out. Organizing that in a way that's really helpful for your staff at a firm is very important. And a lot of times it is not organized well. It is the calls are not being routed to the right matter teams, for example. Folks are sitting on hold and then you lose a client because of that. There's call centers that have varying levels of success that are addressing some of these communication pieces, but it is an outsourced call center and clients recognize that. So the communication, sort of inbound and outbound communication piece right at the front is something that could really be improved, and leveraging AI is a big way to do that. Number two, when that information comes in, is it complete? Is it valid? If I'm talking to a client, can I get prompts to ask the right kinds of questions that'll give me the right types of data back? That is still a bit of a miss. So, the completeness and the validity of the case itself and doing that assessment is a big thing. And then once that person is engaged with your firm, is there a consistent touch with them on some level? So either reminders that are prompted by an AI agent, in our case, for someone to call out to that individual, or even just an automated prompt to say that there's been an update on your case or things like that, and then always having that ability to route that person, again, on the communications front, to a live person to talk to them. Then I think the last thing, Ari, is really around case valuation. What is a good case versus a bad case? Can we look at historical data within our own firm or even publicly available information to understand what might this case be worth, and can it get routed to the right person to actually address it from there on?
Terry, generally speaking, law firms find legal tech implementation either difficult, scary, or hard. What advice would you give them when it comes to embracing legal tech, specifically case intake technology?
It's a great point, Ari, and when we founded Litify, we would have to go out and explain to clients that this is kind of like childbirth. Literally, it's going to be a 9-month gestation period and then a lot of discomfort, but you're going to have an amazing baby on the other side of it that's going to grow and do all these amazing things. But there was a lot of truth to that. Lessons learned, though, is that from an intake perspective, you can't really disrupt the apple cart too much, because this is your lifeblood. This is how you're making money. This is really how the firm is going to be successful and grow and literally keep the lights on. So when we are looking at now, how do we implement products that are not going to be disruptive in terms of the day-to-day, but provide a lot of value? At Lexafide, we looked at it as how can we take a tabletop type of version of our product where we're going to layer it on top of anything that you might have in place right now. I'm a huge believer in interoperability, meaning that the systems that are in place today, you have to be able to talk to them in an effective way, pull the data properly, assess it, use it, kind of have bi-directional syncs between these systems so anybody looking at them will understand what's going on with the case, where to get the right information, how to collaborate with their teammates, how to reach out to clients, but do that in a way that's really not going to be that totally disruptive, sort of change management element that's not needed. So for us, it was how do we create like a Chrome extension, for example, that just basically sits on the side of where a client is working today and prompts them with the right information or gives them the right answers based on the information that's in the system. Ari, I know there's probably an element of pride in people or firms being sort of self-funded, and the ones that are taking funding from a company like Esquire. Like, what are those differences, and what are you seeing in terms of the firms that are actually embracing some of these options and what the success that they're seeing?
I could spot a self-financed lawyer from a mile away because they wear it as a badge of honor. I've never borrowed a dime, and I never will. We then have business conversations and try to educate this lawyer that not all debt is the same. And there's smart debt, for example. Contingency fee law firms have a very unique opportunity, which is to finance their case costs. And if they have special language in their original retainer agreements, the interest that's charged could be passed through to the client and treated as a case cost itself. That becomes an interest-free loan to the law firm. So if a law firm is sitting with hundreds of thousands or millions of their own dollars sitting in case costs, those are after-tax dollars just depreciating. If they start learning about case cost financing and get comfortable with that, that $1 million comes out of the case cost where they can now strategically invest it in growth and legal tech.
So in a way, it's almost like a misplaced pride. And what I mean by that is that you could have, the pride should really be in the results you drive for your clients. And how you get there is less relevant in my view, because it's, money's money. And regardless of the source of it, it's kind of what you do with it in terms of, providing those results for your clients and your firm.
At the end of the day, it's literally math. And if we have the opportunity to sit with a self-financed lawyer and learn how much that firm has out in case costs, we could show how that money can be invested in a number of ways and appreciate instead of what it's doing today, which is depreciate. Then you take on inexpensive bank debt and either pass through the interest or write it off as a business expense, and the math just works. If you do this, it's a smart business decision that allows you to run your law firm like a business, grow, and give your clients the best experience and the best results.
One of my favorite moments, Ari, in business, I'm sure yours as well, is when you see a client become super successful in using one of the offerings or services that you have. I'd love to understand when you see that, what are you seeing? What are you looking for? How are they doing it? Just give me a little bit more on that.
We see it every day when a law firm comes to us, an Esquire Bank, because we understand the law firm's business and we treat their active cases as our collateral. we often can provide that law firm with 3 times the amount of capital availability as compared to their traditional bank that they were working with. These firms are taking this additional capital and investing in growth, case acquisition, technology, et cetera. And we're seeing those firms grow 2x, 3x, 5x in revenue over the next 2 to 3 years.
Ari, I can't thank you enough for being here today. I love our friendship, our partnership, and what we've been doing in the industry together, but your insights are great, and I wish you continued success at Esquire.
Thank you, Terry, and thank you for what you're doing, because you're servicing a need that others have yet to service, that most important moment of case intake. So thank you.
Thanks, Ari.